I'd like to tell you about Margaret Mead. Um, she was a phenomenal lady that I had the privilege of working with for 20 years as her photographer. So she told the class that she'd give one assignment for a large paper at the end of the class. And she said to take any group, but not your family. And then she said a thing that was wonderful to me. She said, anybody that has other abilities such as photography or drawing, you can include it in your paper that you present. And at the time, I thought I wanted to be a social worker. And I was working with a group of 7- and 8-year-old boys in Harlem. And so I did the study of photographing them at work and play and wrestling and stuff. Well, at the end of the class, she called me in to see her. Now, this is the first time I'd ever seen an important person like on a one-to-one basis. And so there was my report on her lap. And she said, Ken, I want you to take my graduate course next year. I said, I can't take it. I'm not a graduate. Oh, don't be silly. I'll see that you get in. And after classes, we walked across the campus. I remember it was raining and I was holding up this little umbrella. She said, Ken, would you like to go to Bali with me, just the two of us, next fall? I didn't hear her. It was one of those psychological things that it's so incredible that you're not aware of it. So during the night or in the morning, I said, did I dream that, or did she actually ask me to go to Bali with her? And so I called her and I said, Dr. Mead, did you ask me to go to Bali with you? She said, yes, God damn it, you didn't answer. I thought you didn't want to go. Oh, no, I want to go. She said, all right, meet me in my home in Waverly Place Thursday at 7 o'clock, and she hung up the phone. One of her habits was she never said hello or goodbye on the telephone. She was so direct that she didn't have time for hellos and goodbyes. After a couple of days, she would sort of point to something that she wanted to photograph, and I would not. Within those few days, we sort of had a system where we could I could say, photograph, I see that happening down the road coming in, I'll get that when I'm finished here. It's sort of a sign language I did with her of what I was going to photograph. And there's no electricity at that time in Bali. I remember this one important looking home, and the pillars by the road had these giant theatrical clear glass light bulbs. And so I started to laugh or smile about it, and Margaret said, what are you laughing about? I said, well, they have these bulbs, but there's no electricity. And she said, haven't you ever realized that what a beautiful shape that is? It's one of the most exquisite shapes in the world, and they see it as a gorgeous, and it's very expensive, these bulbs, and they're very proud of them. She said, don't you understand that you can't value everything by what you know in your culture? You have to look at everything around the world from what it represents for those people that are living there. And she was sort of annoyed with me. It was Sunday morning, and right after we came out of the church, in the courtyard, there was this scene. And if we start from right to left, the little girl on the right, you see her rubbing her leg, and that means that she's excited about something or she wants to urinate. And then if you look at her hand, she's pushing Grandma's head to see what's so exciting. And Grandma's there knitting, and Grandma's going to knit no matter what happens. And then the other little girl, her sister, is bending over to kiss Grandfather. But that's not her natural move. She's seen this kind of behavior where This is what I call a very Italian look, with her pose, her hands are on her hip. And she's leaning in for the kiss. And Grandpa does what grandfathers do, is he's there to accept it. And when the Jeep got down to the village of Bayan Gade, we parked under a banyan tree. And because it was so isolated, the kids from the village came out to greet me. And so in this particular photograph, I'm holding pictures up on my left hand of different families, and on my right hand I'm taking their pictures. And believe it or not, they had never seen photographs before. Someone asked Margaret once, what does Ken do photographically? And she said, he photographs relationships. There's no doubt that Margaret Mead was incredibly important to me as a mentor, as a way. I think if there were one thought that I would have about it, is she opened the world to me. When she died 20 years later, and we were actually, there was a book we were doing together, and she said, at the time when she had pancreatic cancer, and she said, I can't do it anymore, Ken. And I said, well, this is a book on active aging people. And she said, I said, well, maybe you could talk it into a tape recorder. And she said, no. Here she was, within a few months of dying, she said, books have to come out of my fingers. In other words, she couldn't tape it, she had to type it. And when she actually died in the hospital here in Sloan Kettering, the staff that I was holding before was at the end of her bed. I remember going down to to a little chapel they had on the ground floor and just crying. And what I realized at that moment was that my mother had died about 4 months prior to this, but that I was feeling more for Margaret Mead than my mother, and that was a shock to me.